everybody, it's Lon.TV, and the folks from CalDigit let us borrow this Thunderbolt dock of theirs to review, and I think this device has been single-handedly responsible for bringing down the price of these Thunderbolt docks. When this came out in the market, it was priced at about $100 less than the chief competitor, which was from Belkin, and now Belkin is lowering their prices in response, so this has been great for consumers. Now, this thing has something that Belkin doesn't have, and it also lacks something that the Belkin has. So you have to kind of weigh your options and see what you want to do. Now, what it lacks is a FireWire 800 port, but a lot of us aren't using that anymore. But what it gains, which the Belkin lacks, is an HDMI port, so you can plug in a display without giving up this other Thunderbolt port here. Now, there's a limitation to this because it is HDMI, and it's limited to 1080p or less. So if you have a larger display that is beyond 1920 by 1080, you're going to still have to use that Thunderbolt port there to run your DisplayPort adapter. But if you just have a smaller display or you want to hook it up to a TV, you can do that and still have something left open to plug Thunderbolt into, which is really cool. And this is a pass-through, so it works just like any other dock would, and there's no real speed hit for plugging Thunderbolt devices into this versus directly into your machine. On something like my little MacBook Air here, it works out really well because I only have one Thunderbolt port, so this really becomes very useful. You also get Gigabit Ethernet. I did a little benchmark in my home network. It's about the speed of Apple's Thunderbolt to Ethernet adapter on my Mac. It's just slightly slower, but honestly not really going to be all that noticeable, so I am perfectly happy with the performance out of that. It has 3 USB 3.0 ports. It's got 2 on the back and 1 on the front, and we'll do a little benchmark test of that in a minute. And it has, like the Belkin, audio, has audio out and audio in there as well. Audio quality out of this is not as good as it is if you plug your headphones directly into your Mac, and that was the same problem that I noticed with the Belkin as well. So audio almost sounds identical out of this as it does out of the Belkin. So it's not going to blow your socks off. It's not bad, but it's not as good. It lacks the clarity that you get when you plug headphones directly into the computer. Now, what I want to do now is a quick benchmark test because one of the things that I noticed on the Belkin was that the USB 3.0 speed was running about 40 megabytes per second behind what I was seeing when I plugged the device directly into the computer. So we're going to pop up on here. I've got a USB 3.0 adapter connected to one of my solid-state disks, and when I ran this benchmark earlier this afternoon, when I had the USB drive plugged directly into my MacBook Air here, I was getting about 200 megabytes per second in write and about 245 megabytes per second in read. You got to love the solid-state performance for that. So we're going to run this now and just see what kind of difference we get here. And you know, it's also about 40 megabytes behind. We're on the write speeds at least. It's slightly better, or actually much better on the read side. So we're only lagging about 5 megabytes per second behind there. It just could be the USB host that they have inside of the dock might be just a little bit slower than what you might have on the real hardware. If you are on Mac OS X 10.9, there are no drivers required. You just plug it right in and it works, which is great, just like the Belkin does. If you're on earlier versions of Mac OS X, you'll have to install some drivers, and as well, if you're on Windows 7 or 8 and using Thunderbolt, you'll need to get some drivers from CalDigit's website. I should also note that it doesn't come with a cable, so that's going to add about $30 to the price, but Belkin now is offering their product without the cable also to keep this price competition going. So that is the CalDigit Thunderbolt dock. It is every bit as good as the Belkin in almost every way. In fact, it performs almost identically to that device, and really it's a matter of which port you need. If you need the HDMI, then I would go with this. But if you really need that FireWire 800 connection, maybe the Belkin might be a better choice there. But it's great. It's been bringing the prices down of other competing products and finally giving us Mac users some choice in the docking station department. So you can't complain about that at all. This is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.